My husband emptied our joint account and vanished with his mistress. But what I did next shocked everyone. They said we were the perfect couple. At parties, people whispered about how in love we looked, how my husband, Daniel, never left my side, how his hand always rested protectively on the small of my back, how his eyes lit up when I entered the room. My friends teased that I had won the jackpot. And in many ways, I believed it. We had built a life together, a modest home with plans for something bigger, savings tucked away in a joint account, dreams of children, vacations, and gray hair shared on a porch swing. That morning started like any other. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air as sunlight streamed through the curtains. Daniel kissed me lightly on the forehead before heading to the shower. "Don't forget, babe," he said, "our dream house fund should be enough now. Maybe this weekend we can finally go see that property on Cedar Hill." I smiled, warmth blooming in my chest. "I'll check the balance today," I promised. It felt like the beginning of a new chapter. But as soon as he left for work, I sat with my laptop, logged into our joint account, and froze. Balance, $0. My heart slammed against my ribs. No, I had to be reading it wrong. I refreshed the page. Again. Still $0. All of it, every dollar of our savings, every cent we'd worked for, gone. I sat there in shock, my fingers trembling against the keyboard. My mind spun. Maybe it's a glitch. Maybe the bank's servers are down. But then my eyes drifted to the transaction history. A string of withdrawals stared back at me. Large amounts, siphoned day after day over the past 2 weeks. And the final blow, a lump sum transfer of the entire balance just the night before. The transfer was labeled Lifestyle Ventures LLC. What the hell is Lifestyle Ventures? I whispered, my throat tight. I grabbed my phone and dialed Daniel. Straight to voicemail. "Daniel, it's me. Call me back right now. Something's wrong with our account." I called again. And again. Nothing. A cold dread pooled in my stomach. I scrolled back up to the transaction list and clicked on the company name. It linked to a business account, but under the notes section of the final transfer was something I almost missed. Recipient, Vanessa Hart. My chest caved in. Vanessa. The name sounded familiar. Too familiar. And then I remembered. Vanessa was the coworker he had mentioned in passing months ago, the one who always needed help staying late at the office. My hands shook so violently I nearly dropped the phone. Could it be? I couldn't breathe. My vision blurred with hot tears. Still, some stubborn part of me clung to denial. No. Not Daniel. Not us. But curiosity, no, desperation, pushed me to search. I typed her name into social media. There she was. Vanessa Hart. 27. Glossy dark hair. A smile that could sell anything. Her Instagram looked like a catalog for luxury living. Designer bags, champagne dinners, vacations on yachts. And then I saw it. A photo posted just last night. Vanessa, draped in a silk dress, her lips painted scarlet, holding up a champagne flute. The caption, New Beginnings. Sparkles #blessed #love wins. And in the reflection of the champagne glass, Daniel. My Daniel. Arm around her waist. Laughing. Carefree. I slammed my laptop shut, bile rising in my throat. My world tilted on its axis. The man who had kissed me that morning, who spoke of our dream house, had already chosen another life. I staggered to my feet, my phone buzzing in my hand. A notification popped up. Find my phone location update. I had once insisted we share our locations for safety. He had never turned it off. The blinking dot showed Daniel's phone, at the airport. My knees buckled. He wasn't just with her. He was leaving. Leaving me. My pulse thundered in my ears as I dialed him again. For a moment, I thought it would ring into the void like before. But this time, he picked up. Daniel! I cried, my voice breaking. There was a pause, then a sigh. I was going to call you later. Later. My voice rose, trembling with fury. You emptied our account, Daniel. Every cent we saved. What the hell are you doing? He was calm. Too calm. Listen, it's not what you think. Not what I think. You're at the airport with her. Vanessa. How long has this been going on? His silence said everything. Daniel, answer me. Finally, his voice came back, cold and detached, like I was a stranger. Look. I'm not coming back. The words sliced through me like knives. What do you mean, you're not coming back? We're married. We built a life together. You'll be fine, okay? You're strong. You don't need me. Don't need you. My voice cracked. You stole from me. You took everything we had. He exhaled, annoyed. Don't look for me. Don't call me. Just move on. And then the line went dead. The man I thought I'd spend my life with had just ended our marriage over the phone, from an airport, on his way to paradise with his mistress. I dropped the phone, my breath shallow and broken. That night, I sat on the kitchen floor, surrounded by shadows. My tears had dried into salt tracks, my throat raw from screaming. My friends tried to call. My sister left messages. Everyone said the same thing. Let him go. You'll rebuild. You'll heal. But the words tasted like ash. Because this wasn't just about heartbreak. It was about betrayal, humiliation, financial ruin. He hadn't just left me, he had stripped me bare, leaving me with nothing but debts and broken promises. And the image of Vanessa's smug, painted smile haunted me. I pressed my palms to the floor, forcing myself to breathe, to think, to stop drowning in the wreckage. And somewhere in that silence, something inside me shifted. It wasn't the weak, sobbing woman Daniel expected me to be. It was something sharper, stronger. I whispered into the dark, my voice low and steady. If he thinks he's won, he hasn't met the real me yet. The tears were gone. The pain was still there, yes, but beneath it burned something fiercer, determination. I would not just survive. I would make him regret ever underestimating me. And that was the night my revenge truly began. Sleep was a stranger that week. My nights were a blur of bitter coffee, swollen eyes, and an obsession with piecing together Daniel's betrayal. If he thought leaving me penniless would paralyze me, he underestimated me. I wasn't going to crawl into a corner and die. No. I was going to dig. I logged back into our online banking portal, retracing every transaction. The company name, Lifestyle Ventures LLC, kept pulsing at me like a taunt. The withdrawals were systematic, each routed through hidden accounts. But Daniel had made one mistake. He'd used our joint email for verification once. Buried deep in the notifications was a trail of receipts. Some were transfers. Some, invoices. And then one name reappeared, over and over again. Hart Properties. Hart. Vanessa Hart. I clenched my jaw. So it wasn't enough to take him from me, she wanted my money too. I pushed further. I called the bank, pretending to be a concerned partner, reviewing suspicious transactions. The officer hesitated but eventually slipped a detail I wasn't supposed to know, the business address linked to Lifestyle Ventures. It wasn't far. That night, I drove across town, my heart pounding like war drums. The office was on the second floor of a shabby building with tinted windows. The name, Lifestyle Ventures, gleamed on the directory plaque. Through the glass door, I saw piles of glossy brochures, luxury condos, beachfront villas, promises of exclusive investments. A scam. As I turned to leave, a janitor shuffled past me. You looking for someone? I forced a smile. No, I was just curious. My husband mentioned this place. The janitor frowned. You mean that tall guy? Always here with the young lady in red. My stomach turned. He's been flaunting her here too. The janitor leaned closer. They said they were flying out tonight. Big deal overseas. And just like that, puzzle pieces locked into place. This wasn't just betrayal. This was fraud. And I had just found the thread to unravel their entire scheme. I pulled out my phone, dialing a number I hadn't used in years. Hi, it's me. I need your help. It's about Daniel. The voice on the other end belonged to my college friend, Maya, now a financial investigator. She listened quietly as I poured everything out, the empty account, the mistress, the shady company. When I finished, there was a long silence. Then Maya said, "I hate to break this to you, but Daniel's been planning this for months." Her words echoed like thunder. She explained how fraudsters often set up fake LLCs, funneling money from unsuspecting investors. Daniel hadn't just betrayed me. He was about to con dozens of people. Maya pulled up corporate records. Vanessa is listed as a co-director. They're partners in crime, literally. And get this, Daniel's been moving money offshore. I swallowed hard. So he stole our savings to fund this scam? Exactly. And if he succeeds, he'll vanish into another country. Untouchable. My hands curled into fists. Not if I stop him. Maya hesitated. This is dangerous. You could get hurt. I stared at Vanessa's Instagram on my phone, a new post of her lounging in an airport lounge, captioned, "Wheels up. Goodbye, old life." My voice hardened. They've already hurt me. I've got nothing left to lose. Later that night, as I sifted through the files Maya had sent, I found something that made my blood run cold. A scanned contract. Daniel's signature, bold across the bottom. And beside it, Vanessa's. But the date on the document? 6 months ago. 6 months. While I was still planning anniversaries, he was building a new empire with her. I slammed the laptop shut, my chest heaving. He hadn't just betrayed me yesterday. He had been living a lie for half a year. And then another document slid into my inbox from Maya. A shipment receipt. Property deeds. All pointing to one phrase that would change everything: final deal closes Friday. I whispered to myself, I have 3 days to ruin them. The next morning, I dressed not in grief, but in resolve. If Daniel and Vanessa thought they were untouchable, I was about to prove them wrong. Maya and I pieced together the scam. They were promising investors luxury real estate that didn't exist. The final deal was set to funnel millions into an offshore account. And then they'd disappear. But as I dug deeper, I found a crack in their scheme. The offshore account wasn't in Daniel's name. It was in Vanessa's. I almost laughed. So the great mastermind trusted his mistress more than himself. But that also meant leverage. If I could get access to her communications, I could expose them both. That night, I scrolled Vanessa's Instagram again. She had posted a boomerang clinking champagne glasses. The caption, "To the sweetest deal yet." In the reflection of the glass was an email open on her laptop. I squinted, zooming in. A subject line glared back at me, "Wire transfer confirmation, Cayman Islands." My pulse quickened. I now had proof they were laundering money. But it wasn't enough. I needed more. Something explosive. Maya leaned over my shoulder. "If you want to take them down, you'll need to catch them red-handed." I nodded slowly. "Then that's what I'll do." That night, I drafted a fake investor email and sent it straight to Vanessa. My email posed as an investor desperate to get in on their once-in-a-lifetime deal. I dangled a 6-figure promise. It worked. The next day, Vanessa replied. Her tone was cocky, confident, like she had reeled in yet another victim. She invited me to a private investor briefing via video call. This was my chance. I didn't go alone. I brought in my brother, Chris, a tech whiz, who helped me set up recording software. The call connected. Vanessa appeared on screen, radiant in a red dress, her voice dripping honey. "Congratulations," she purred. "You're about to double your fortune." Daniel's face appeared beside her. My stomach lurched. There he was, smiling, selling lies. Chris hit record. For 30 minutes, they bragged about exclusive villas and guaranteed returns. Not once did they mention risk. Not once did they mention reality. And then Daniel slipped. He smirked at Vanessa. "By Friday, we'll be gone. They'll never catch us." Every word captured. After the call ended, Chris looked at me. "That was gold. You've got them." But Maya shook her head. "Not enough. Investors might think they were exaggerating. We need concrete proof, wire transfers, contracts, recordings." I clenched my fists. "Then I'll get it. I'll make Vanessa hand me everything herself." Just then, my phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Vanessa. We should talk privately. I think you could be useful. I stared at her message, my heart racing. Why me? Why now? Maya urged caution. She suspects nothing. Play along, but don't let her rope you in. I typed back, of course. Tell me when and where. Minutes later, Vanessa replied with an address. A hotel downtown. Tonight. I arrived dressed sharply, hair pinned back, mask of confidence painted over my turmoil. She was waiting in the lobby, sipping wine like a queen. When she saw me, she smiled, sly and calculating. So, she said, crossing her legs. You're interested in making money? I feigned eagerness. Who isn't? She laughed lightly. Smart woman. Daniel doesn't know I reached out to you. He's too protective. But I see potential in you. I forced a curious look. Why me? Vanessa leaned closer, her perfume suffocating. Because women like us understand survival. Men think they're the masterminds, but really, she tapped her temple. We pull the strings. Her arrogance was nauseating. But it was also an opportunity. I leaned in. If I'm to invest, I need details. Proof. Show me the numbers. Her eyes glittered. Bold. I like that. She pulled out her tablet, scrolling through wire transfers, contracts, account numbers. Chris's hidden recorder, tucked in my purse, captured every click. Vanessa smirked. By the time anyone figures it out, we'll be sipping champagne on a beach in Dubai. I smiled sweetly, hiding my fury. Sounds perfect. But inside, a storm raged. Because with every arrogant word she spoke, with every receipt she showed me, she was digging her own grave. And when she accidentally called Daniel mid-meeting, putting him on speaker, he said the words that sealed their fate. Vanessa, don't worry. No one can stop us now. The rooftop bar had a view that made the city look harmless, lights like spilled sugar, cars threading quiet arteries. Vanessa liked meeting above the world. It fit the way she talked, like gravity didn't apply to her. Cheers to new investors, she said, clinking her glass to mine. Her lipstick left a brave red crescent on the rim. I smiled like a woman who wanted returns, not revenge. Convince me. Her eyes glittered. You're bold. I like bold. Daniel's right, this last round is for people who can stomach altitude. Altitude. I kept my voice flat. Risk, she purred. But not for us. She crossed one leg over the other, the silk of her dress whispering. The recorder in my purse, a little square of patience, caught everything in a steady, blinking heartbeat. Tell me the story, I said. From the beginning. I'm a narrative investor. She laughed, delighted. A narrative investor? Okay, story time. She leaned in, perfume like lilies dipped in wealth. He was bored, she said. That's how it starts with men. Bored with the wife, bored with the life. He had decent connections and a decent face, and I had the hunger. We tested a few small plays, short-term rentals, fake staging, high-gloss photography, then realized the money isn't in property you can touch. It's in property people can imagine. The renderings, I said softly. I'd seen them online, villas that never smelled like wet cement, sun that never set. She smiled. We sell the dream, collect the deposits, route the funds through lifestyle ventures to heart properties. Then the money takes a little trip. To the Caymans, I said, just to see if she'd flinch. She didn't. Among other places. Investors don't sue. Not if they're dazzled. Not if we deliver something, brochures, updates, a construction photo here, a drone shot there. People want to believe. And if they don't, Daniel handles it. He's very convincing. She tilted her head, a cat stretching. You've noticed. I made my mouth into a neutral line. And the wife. Her smile turned knife-thin. The wife was optional. Think of her as a sunk cost. For a second, the glass city blurred. I forced it back into focus. How soon do you close? Friday, she said. Final wire by noon. By sunset, we're different people. Her phone buzzed. She put Daniel on speaker, careless as a queen with a court. Vanessa, he said, irritated. I told you, no new money this close to. She's fine, Vanessa interrupted, rolling her eyes at me. She wants in. She's a woman who knows how to keep quiet. A beat. Then Daniel's voice, smoother, colder. Good. Just keep everything clean for 48 hours. And make sure the wife stays offline. She's not a problem, Vanessa said lazily. She's sentimental. Sentimental women fold. I looked down to hide the way my throat tightened. And if she doesn't... Vanessa's smile didn't move. Then we teach her how. The call ended. The city hummed under us. Any more questions? She asked. One, I said. What happens to men who get bored again? Her lashes lowered. They don't with me. Lucky them. Luck has nothing to do with it. I let the silence stretch until she filled it. You're in, she asked. I'm in, I said, and the recorder in my purse trapped the word like a moth under glass. When I reached the elevator, my hands began to shake. It took 2 floors for the tremor to become a laugh. Not joy, release. She had performed the whole confession for me, and for once, I didn't have to coax the truth. I only had to give it a stage. In the lobby mirror, I looked like myself again and someone harder. I tucked a curl behind my ear, pressed the purse to my ribs, and whispered to the ghost of a marriage that had died without telling me. You just handed me your ending. We worked in the kitchen because it felt like a war room. The coffee went cold. The laptop grew warm. Chris, my brother, set up a neat little theater of screens. Maya, my old friend, kept us legal the way a lighthouse keeps a ship honest. Clip 32, Chris said, fingers flying. Her saying the words route the funds. That's the spine. Don't post the bank names, Maya warned. Blur account numbers. And make it about the pattern, not the person, until it needs to be about the person. I nodded. It needs to be about the person. Maya's mouth softened. Then make sure there's daylight between you and the post. We built the video like you build a case, a heartbeat of music, a montage of glossy brochures, a voice saying, we sell the dream. A hard cut, by sunset, we're different people. Screenshots of filings, LLCs mating like insects. The final slice, Daniel's voice, just keep everything clean for 48 hours. Title. Chris asked. I typed. They stole my life savings. They're about to steal yours. Watch this before Friday. Anonymous account, 2-step, burner email, Chris said. Post to TikTok, Instagram, X. Tag the watchdog influencers. Tag the real estate scam subreddit. Tag the true crime podcasters. Leave the hook, Maya said. No names in the first hour. Let the internet hunt. We launched it at 7:12 a.m., when people who hate their bosses scroll before breakfast. At 7:19 it had 600 views. At 7:27, 4,000. By 8:03, it stopped being a video and became a rumor with teeth. Comments bloomed like algae. Drop the names. Coward. I recognize this brochure. That company pitched my dad. This audio. I got chills. Someone tag at ExposeTheCon. Follow the money trail. Check Heart Properties on the corporate registry. OP, if you're real, post proof. I posted a second clip. Her laugh, his schedule, a blurred wire confirmation with the Caymans peeking out like an ankle. I posted the business registry link. I posted a still frame from the rooftop, the skyline a mosaic of alibis. The first journalist DM'd at 9:15. The second at 9:17. An influencer with a bullhorn for a mouth stitched my audio with her outrage and said, thread incoming, and the thread arrived, and the thread kept arriving. At 10:21, my phone vibrated with a name I used to wake up for. Daniel. I let it ring once. Twice. I answered on 3, not because I wanted to, but because I wanted him to hear the quiet on my end. Quiet is more frightening than rage. What did you do? He asked, without preamble. The old charm had been boiled off. What remained was raw metal. Posted the truth. You posted defamation. He tried to make the word heavy. You don't understand what you've started. I understand exactly. Think of it as due diligence. You think the internet will save you, he sneered. They'll move on tomorrow. They always do. Then I suppose we better make today count, I said, and hung up. At noon, someone leaked our names in a comment that vanished and reappeared and multiplied. My anonymous account didn't matter anymore. The story had escaped the fence. By 2, my DMs brimmed with strangers who weren't strangers. A man who'd wired a deposit and never heard back. A woman whose mother had mortgaged a house to get in on the ground floor. A retired teacher who sent a screenshot of a brochure that mentioned guaranteed returns in a font that looked like it had never learned to lie. At 3, a lawyer in a navy suit I could hear even over the phone left a message that said, "We represent 3 affected clients. We'll be in touch." At 4, Vanessa posted a story, a white background, black text, "Don't believe lies spread by bitter people." The next slide was an airplane wing, the universal symbol for above it all. The third slide never arrived. Her account went dark. At 5, Maya placed her palm over mine. "You need to eat," she said softly. "After the live stream," I said. "The podcaster goes live at 6. She wants me to call in." The live stream was a chorus of outrage turned orchestra. 300,000 people who hated the feeling of being prey. I didn't give them blood. I gave them a map. "I'm not here for drama," I said. "I'm here for the people who wired their pensions because someone sent them a dream on glossy paper." The comments turned fierce in a different way. Protective, collective, like a neighborhood porch light turned on at the same time. At 7:04, my phone lit again. Private number. I answered to silence, then to breathing, then to Vanessa's voice, clipped and sober and tiny. "We need to meet," she said. "Alone." The line clicked dead. Maya wrote a date and an address on a yellow sticky note and slid it toward me. "We're not doing this alone," she said. "Of course not," I said. But it mattered that Vanessa thought we would. Outside, the city's lights belonged to no one. Inside, my small kitchen felt like the epicenter of a storm that had finally learned my name. We chose a cafe with bad lighting and better exits. Vanessa arrived in a sweater she thought said, "plain." It said punishment. "Coffee?" I asked. "Water," she said, like someone had told her not to leave fingerprints. A waiter brought the water. She didn't touch it. "You're not recording?" she asked. I tilted my head. "Should I be?" She teetered behind her sunglasses. "I'm not the villain you want." "Then tell me who is." She swallowed. "Daniel. And the people he owes. He thought he could outrun them with this deal. He can't. He never could. The people he owes." The phrase crawled down my spine and settled there. "Who are they?" She wrapped her arms around herself, as if the room had gone cold. "You think he's the genius? He's not. He's adaptable. Someone bigger noticed, that's all. Offered to stake us if we accelerated. And he said yes. He always says yes to a shortcut. And you?" "I said yes to another life," she said flatly. "But I didn't sign up to be collateral." She slid a folder across the table. Inside, copies of contract templates, emails, wire confirmations, presentation decks that used words like exclusive and guarantee too often to be legal. A list of names. A chart of routes, lifestyle ventures, heart properties, an offshore bloom of accounts like algae fed by sun. Maya's mic, sewn into my coat hem, caught the sounds, paper, breath, the faint clink of a spoon in a cup 2 tables over. "These are copies," I said. "The originals are somewhere safe," she said. "If I testify, I want immunity. I'm not the one who grants that." She leaned forward, lip shaking despite the sunglasses. "He called me last night and told me to delete everything. He said if it all falls apart, the story is that I seduced him, lied to him, ran the whole thing without his knowledge. He said he'd cry on camera." I looked at her, really looked. Her beauty was a strategy she'd learned too well. Now it was a liability he intended to weaponize. "And did you?" I asked, quiet. Her nostrils flared. "I'm not innocent," she said. "But I'm not disposable." I stood, collecting the folder. "No," I said. "You're not." We walked out together, because it felt safer to separate in daylight. At the corner, she touched my sleeve. "If he calls you," she said, "don't answer." "He already did." Then don't go if he asks you to meet, she said urgently. He's not sleeping. He's swallowing pills with espresso. He's not thinking. He's someone else. I could have said, he's exactly who he's always been, but I didn't. We parted. I turned left toward a future in a courthouse. By noon, the case had a name and a number. We filed an emergency motion, freeze orders on accounts, injunctions against wire transfers, a request for international cooperation. The judge read fast and frowned hard. At 2, we sat across from a senior investigator in a gray suit that made him look like he'd never been surprised. You've stirred a nest, he said, not unkindly. Your husband and Ms. Hart aren't small time. That makes this easier and harder. Freeze the funds, Maya said. If you do nothing else before Friday, freeze the funds. He tapped his pen. We'll need probable cause, more than social media noise. We gave him the folder. We gave him the audios. We gave him the list of investors who had begun to email their grief like affidavits. He read. He listened. He made a phone call that had an accent on the other end, and when he hung up, he had a different posture, the posture of a man who had permission. We'll move, he said. Expect noise. Noise. I asked. Men like your husband, he said, don't go quietly. The alert went out to banks like a siren you can't hear. The request slid under doors I'd never walked through, Cayman compliance teams, airport flags, a nudge to Interpol. At 5:43 p.m., a notification came through channels I didn't understand. Temporary freeze granted. A dozen accounts paused mid-breath. I exhaled for the first time that day. You're safe, Maya said. No, I said, thinking of Vanessa's voice. He's someone else. We're visible. The first call after the freeze was from a number with no country. I let it go to voicemail. He didn't leave one. The second was from Daniel's old number, the one that had once sent me photos of sunsets he thought I'd like. I let it ring. It stopped. It started again. This time, I answered. You think a judge saves you, he said, voice frayed with something that wasn't fear, or maybe it was fear with a costume on. You think your little post makes you a saint? You think anyone will care when you're old and alone? You sound tired, I said. You sound arrogant. I sound done, I said, and ended the call. That night, I slept 3 hours. It was enough to dream for the first time in weeks. In the dream, I was building a house with rooms that didn't lock from the outside. I woke to find the house was a day away. The morning had a hard light. I opened the curtains and watched dust lift in the beam like confetti that hadn't learned joy yet. At 8:02, Vanessa sent a voice note. She'd given up the fiction of text. Voice made her feel human. I can't breathe, she said. They're at my building. Reporters. Someone in the elevator asked me if I sleep well on stolen pillows. I can't call my mother. She said not to use her name. Daniel left 12 voicemails last night, all caps. He said if I hand anything over, we're over. Then he said if I don't, we're still over. He says he's loyal, but only to his next idea. She sniffed, a small wet sound. I'm going to the police. I'll sign. I'll tell them everything. I'm not letting him write me out as a siren who sang him onto the rocks. He's the ship, okay? He's the ship that pointed itself at the lighthouse and called it destiny. Maya texted 2 words, about time. At noon, Vanessa walked into a building with thick glass and thin patients and asked for a room with a table. She came out at 3, eyes red, spine straighter, like confession had washed something off and left something else behind. The statement moved through official air. It had exhibits and attachments and a tone that did not belong to an influencer. It named things, dates, amounts, the meetings where Daniel rehearsed his weeping face for the cameras. It listed the shell companies like dolls nestled inside each other's painted bodies. It described the off-ramp plan, tickets, cash, a villa in a place with too much salt in the air to remember anyone's name. A leak is a bad word until it's the kind that waters a firebreak. By evening, a reputable paper ran a story that didn't say, allegedly, as often as it used to. 3 investors filed civil suits in a courthouse that had learned their names as quickly as it had learned Daniel's. At 6, Daniel called again. The voice that had once told me I looked beautiful in yellow now sounded like a rope under strain. "You've turned her," he said, accusation cracking on the last consonant. "You like that. You like taking what's mine." "She was never yours," I said. "You don't own people. You barely own your decisions." He laughed, high and too fast. "You're brave on the phone. Come say that to my face." "No. Come say it," he insisted, voice dropping to a private register I had once called intimacy and now recognized as a tool. "I'll meet you. We'll talk like adults. We'll settle this. You can have your half back. We'll sign. I'll go away. You'll never see me again." "Put it in writing," I said. He paused. "Over dinner," he said. "The way civilized people do. Civilized people don't steal." "You always did like moral geometry," he said. "Fine. No dinner. A public place. You choose." I imagined the article if I refused. Scorned wife refuses to meet husband to resolve dispute. I imagined the article if I did. Victim walks into trap. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the precise measurement of the doorframe. "I'll text you," I said and hung up. Maya called before I could put the phone down. "You're not going alone," she said. "I know. Don't pick a restaurant." He knows restaurants. "Pick something with bad chairs and good sightlines." "Like a bus station," I said. "Exactly like a bus station," she said. We chose a decommissioned ferry terminal that had been turned into a food hall, the kind of place where no one looks at anyone for more than a second. Chris planted the tracker in my bag like a seed. The investigator assigned 2 plainclothes officers with eyes like unlit matches. We rehearsed versions of me that could hold a line and versions of him that would try to blur it. At midnight, I stared at the ceiling and asked it to tell me what kind of woman I had been before this. It didn't answer. Ceilings don't. But I remembered anyway, generous, soft, occasionally naive. I didn't want to lose those things. I wanted to put them somewhere he couldn't reach. I slept, eventually. Morning arrived like a verdict. The ferry terminal smelled like fried dough and the ocean working too hard. I sat at a metal table that wobbled, on a chair that thought it was a suggestion. My bag rested on my lap, its false bottom humming with certainty. Daniel arrived 5 minutes early, which once meant flowers. Today it meant desperation. He wore the kind of casual that costs too much and looks like nothing. For a moment, my heart performed an old trick, remembering him in our first apartment, hair wet from the rain, hands warm around a bowl of noodles we ate on the floor. Memory is a traitor when you're trying to be brave. He sat without asking, like always. "You look tired," he said softly, like always. "I'm busy," I said. "With your content. With my life." He glanced around, gauging exits like a man who had measured rooms his entire life. "I'm not here to fight." "No," I said. "You're here to offer me something you can't deliver." He folded his hands. No ring. I had kept mine in a dish that also held stray screws and courage. "I can deliver plenty. You want the house? Take the house. You want the car? Take the car. You sold the car," I said. "Then take the next one." "The next one doesn't exist." His jaw ticked. "You've always been difficult when you think you're right." "I'm difficult when I am right." He leaned forward, the mask slipping enough to show teeth. "This little crusade," he said, voice low, "it ends now. You got your moment. You cried to the crowd. Congratulations. But the world moves. It forgets. You should too. I'll forget when the people you conned get their money back." "The money's safe," he said. "No one's getting hurt." "Not yet," I said. "Hurt likes a timetable." He sat back, studied me, and in that beat, the room went narrow. "You used to be sweet," he said, as if sweetness were a commodity he could accuse me of hoarding. "You used to let me fix things." "You used to fix things you broke," I said. "Now I call that sabotage." He laughed once, hard. "Fine. You want honesty? I left because you made me feel small." I blinked. "You stole because I made you feel small." He shrugged, helpless as a boy in a story he thought would save him. "You never needed me." I did, I said. I needed a partner. You wanted a fan. He tapped the table. Enough. This is what happens next. You post a retraction, something tasteful about misunderstanding. You stop feeding the press. You tell your new friends at whatever agency that the audio's doctored. In return, I walk. No countersuit. No public spectacle. You're bargaining with a fire alarm, I said. It already rang. He leaned in again, voice turning coaxing, the snake clearing its throat. I'm asking you to be kind to yourself. You don't want to spend the next 2 years in court, do you? You don't want to say my name into microphones. You'll lose weight. You'll gain insomnia. Is that the character you want? I'll write a better one, I said. He stared, and the stare shifted, and I watched it happen. The recognition that I had slipped out of the script he set for me, that my next line wasn't his cue. His hand twitched. His knee bounced. He lifted his chin to look over my shoulder. I didn't turn. I said clearly, don't. He smiled without humor. Paranoid. Prepared. Then you won't mind if I check your bag, he said lightly. For wires. I will, I said. He reached anyway. In that motion, clumsy with entitlement, something sharp flashed under his sleeve, a razor of intent I recognized too late and not at all. The 2 plainclothes officers had been leaning at a counter pretending to argue about hot sauce. Now they were air. Sir, one barked, all pretense gone. Hands where we can see them. Daniel froze, then laughed like a man who believes God is still his friend. Officers, he said, charm snapping back on like a light. My wife and I are having a private dispute. We don't need. Stand up, the other said. Slowly. People turned. Phones lifted. Somewhere, oil hissed. A child cried because the room had changed shape. Daniel stood. The officer stepped close, hands firm. Daniel's mouth moved quickly, but his eyes were a cornered animal's. Don't hurt him, I said, surprising myself with the sincerity in it. I don't want him hurt, I thought. I want him stopped. Ma'am, the first officer said, we won't. They took his wrists. He flinched, then fought, then stopped fighting when the cuffs bit. The sound they made was a punctuation mark. On what grounds, he demanded, the actor returning for a final bow. Fraud, the officer said. Conspiracy to commit fraud. Money laundering. And a very busy Friday. He looked at me then, really looked, no costumes, and said, soft enough that no one but me and the recorder would catch it, you won't win. I already did, I said. I stopped you. They walked him away. Not far, enough. The crowd began to dissolve back into a food court that pretended it hadn't just watched a man lose a future. My chair wobbled again as if to ask if I had learned balance. Maya appeared at my elbow. You okay? I nodded, and only then felt the sweat at my hairline, the tremor in my hands. He said it wasn't the end. It isn't, she said. Endings are less dramatic than movies sell us. There's the paperwork, the court dates, the impact statements. And after that? I asked. She smiled, tired and bright. After that, you get to build something that doesn't require revenge to stand. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You made a mistake. I stared at it until the words lost meaning. Chris leaned in to read. Ignore, he said. The second text arrived. This isn't over. Block, Maya said. I did. But the echo lingered, as echoes do, not a threat so much as the memory of one. We walked out into the white afternoon. The wind off the water found my throat and cooled it. Beyond the pier, gulls argued like critics who had forgotten the play. Behind us, the terminal swallowed the noise, then served another plate of it to someone who had never heard our names. I stood at the railing, the metal cold and honest under my hands, and thought, it isn't over. Not because he said so, but because endings that matter are less like doors and more like paths. I took a breath and made a promise to the person I had been before and to the person I was becoming. Tomorrow, we begin the part that isn't about him. And somewhere far off, a siren answered. Not for me, not anymore, but for someone who had finally stopped running out of time. The city courthouse was a cathedral of echoes, marble floors that turned whispers into sermons. I hadn't been inside since college tours, when the guide said justice was slow but sure. Now I knew justice was quick enough if you gave it teeth. Daniel shuffled in through the side entrance, hands cuffed, jaw tight. He had tried to dress for war, pressed shirt, hair slicked, the smile rehearsed. But the cuffs made everything look like costume. He spotted me across the aisle. His lips moved. Traitor. I didn't flinch. I only straightened my back. The hearing was short. Fraud, conspiracy, laundering, the charges stacked like bricks. His lawyer asked for bail. The judge refused. The crowd hummed like bees. Investors, reporters, neighbors who wanted a closer look at a fall. As the guards moved him, his voice rose, desperate now. She set me up. She's lying. She's the manipulator, not me. But the microphones caught everything. So did the public. The same internet that once ignored me now documented him. Screenshots, captions, hashtags. When the guards pulled him away, he twisted toward me, spitting words like knives. This isn't the end. You hear me? This isn't the end. I whispered, soft enough for myself. Yes, Daniel. It is. The night after the hearing, I dreamed of water. Not drowning, floating. When I woke, the weight that had lived in my ribs for months was gone, replaced with something lighter. The morning news carried the footage, Daniel being dragged into a police van, shouting that he was framed. The headline, From Husband to Hustler, Scam Kingpin Arrested. My phone buzzed endlessly. Friends. Strangers. Messages of solidarity. A retired nurse wrote, I almost invested my savings with them. Thank you. But the best call was from Maya. Her voice carried triumph. They froze the accounts. Offshore, domestic, everything. He can't touch a cent. I exhaled. For weeks, I'd lived in fear he would slip through cracks. But now, the cracks had closed. Still, Daniel wasn't silent. From jail, he sent letters through his lawyer, thinly veiled threats, manipulations dressed as apologies. We could fix this. We could be us again. Don't you miss me? I didn't reply. The only reply I gave was showing up to every hearing, head high, recorder in my purse like a talisman. The world now saw him not as the charming husband, but as the thief, the liar, the man who tried to trade love for greed. And that was justice I hadn't known I needed. Vanessa thought confession would save her. It did, for a while. She testified against Daniel, gave evidence, painted herself as naive, manipulated. The court offered leniency. The public, though, unforgiving. Her social accounts drowned in venom. Home wrecker. Thief. Karma came fast. Endorsement deals vanished. Friends vanished faster. She tried to pivot, new accounts, new image, but the internet has a long memory. She reached out once more, her number lighting up my phone. Against my better judgment, I answered. Her voice was hoarse. I lost everything. I stayed silent. Daniel ruined me, she said. But you finished me. My grip on the phone tightened. No, Vanessa. You finished yourself. I just showed the mirror. She sniffled, then whispered, Do you forgive me? I thought of the money, the lies, the laughter over my ruined life. And I said simply, No. The line went dead. She never called again. Life after chaos is quiet in strange ways. Bills still arrive. Dishes still need washing. The world does not pause for your wounds. But slowly, I began to rebuild. I found work again, leaning on skills I had abandoned during marriage. I started consulting for small businesses, helping them protect themselves against fraud. Irony turned into purpose. With the settlement money from seized assets, I didn't just survive, I thrived. I cleared debts. I donated to victims who had lost more than me. And I put aside money, not in a joint account, but in my own name, my own future. Reporters called me the woman who outplayed the scammer. A headline read, From Victim to Victor, How One Wife Turned Betrayal into Justice. I smiled when I saw it. Not because I needed the world to clap for me, but because the world finally saw me not as Daniel's wife, not as a victim, but as myself. One evening, standing in front of the mirror, I slipped off my old wedding ring. I placed it in a box, closed it, and whispered, "That story's over." And in its place, I slipped on a new band, silver, simple, no diamond. Not a promise to someone else. A promise to myself. Months later, I walked through the doorway of my new home. Not the dream house Daniel and I once planned. This one was mine alone. The walls smelled of fresh paint and freedom. I stood on the porch, coffee in hand, watching the sun rise. The world had moved on from hashtags and headlines. Daniel sat in a cell, his name now shorthand for scams. Vanessa had vanished into obscurity. And me? I was building something new. I had started a foundation for betrayed spouses, teaching financial literacy, legal awareness, helping others reclaim power. One woman wrote, "You saved me. I almost gave up. But your story showed me survival is possible." That was worth more than any stolen dollar. I walked through my quiet home, barefoot, free. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting for the next betrayal, the next phone call, the next crisis. Daniel thought he ended me when he drained that account and boarded a plane with his mistress. But what he didn't know was this. Every ending he gave me was just the beginning of something greater. I poured myself another cup of coffee, smiled at the rising sun, and whispered, "You thought you won, Daniel. But you only created my beginning." The end.